The days pass following your misadventures in the Rose Garden in a relaxed, unhurried sort of manner. Your mad dash through the forest is beginning to feel like a distant memory, so much so that you can scarcely recall the raw, naked fear you once felt as you fled for your life. There's no running to be had when you are working for the princess. You would have nowhere else to run, and in any event, there is no longer any reason to run. The shadows which once tormented you have at long last begun to recede. You can scarcely recall as you lay down in your bed the petty cruelties you were subjected to by your classmates at the conservatoire. They no longer matter. Your attention is focused not upon yourself, but upon the princess. The more time you expend with her, the more you could come to care for her. You've become quite besotted with her, but you are yet to realize it. Well, I never. How very ignorant can one girl be of her own feelings? The princess is not so half as ignorant as you are, though, despite having spent her whole life within the palace's walls. The weight of her own feelings are not unknown to her, and during one stormy night, he chooses to make them known to you. You are in the princess's chambers later, perhaps, than you ought to be, later than is strictly appropriate. It is dark outside, and there is little save for the light of the moon to alleviate it. That and the fire which crackles in the grate. You have only just finished stoking that very fire, and now you rise. You look to the princess, who is lying in her bed, and you bid her a good night, as you have many nights past. With a neat curtsy, you turn to leave, but the princess's plaintive voice gives you pause. "Oh, wait, dear one. Do not go. Not just yet." Perplexed, you pause, then look back to the princess. Though she is smiling, her expression is unusually wan. Is she all right? "Oh, I'm sure I'll be fine. It's just nights like this, which make me feel a little out of sorts." And what, you ask, does she mean by that? "Only that it is very cold and very dark, and is very windy besides. I'm afraid there'll be a storm later. It was awfully cloudy earlier when we went out for our walk." The princess is not mistaken about that. The sky, when the pair of you promenaded about the gardens earlier, was gray and steely, the wind bitingly cold. You can hear the wind rattling mournfully against the panes in the princess's bedchamber. The princess's castle is built of stone, and it is well fortified, but even with the fire, it is rather cold. "Oh, I wouldn't like to take up too much of your time when it is so very late. But would you mind sitting with me a little while longer? And reading to me, provided that you can, of course." Oh, this is a fair enough question, but your pride bristles regardless. Hastily, you reassure the princess that yes, of course you could read. You are a poor student in many aspects of the conservatoire, but you had something of a gift when it came to the literary arts. Reading books is all you've ever been good at. "Oh, I see. I suppose I should have known. You're so incredible. I sometimes wonder if there's anything you can't do." The princess's high praises make you flush. Awkwardly, you look away. Being able to read, you reassure her, is not such a great feat. "Oh, perhaps it isn't where you hail from, but it is here. Very few of my old servants could read, and they certainly couldn't read the books that I like." This piques your interest. Intrigued, you ask the princess what books exactly she likes. "Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm fond of fairy tales, you see, old ones from centuries past. I have a collection of them here," the princess says, indicating a book on her bedside table as thick as a mortuary slab. "The book is old, though, and the bindings are weak, the pages brittle, the writing woefully old-fashioned. I didn't trust any of my past servants with that book, but I think you would do a good job breathing life into those old stories. Would you mind reading to me for just a brief while? Please, dear one, oh please." The princess's request seems a simple one expressed sweetly, so much so that you see no reason to refuse her. You take a seat beside the princess upon her luxurious bed, which sinks beneath your weight. Then you retrieve the leather-bound book which is resting upon her bedside table and spread it open. The pages of the book are very brittle, like the princess said, and the bindings of the book are loose. You can feel in the heft of the book's manifold pages the weight of the ages concealed within it. How old is this book? Perhaps it is as old as the castle in which it resides. It is with a quiet voice, hesitant at first, that you begin to read to the princess a tale of courtly love which culminates in a lavish wedding ceremony. All the while as you read, the princess listens to you enraptured, hanging, or so it seems, upon your every word. Once you reach the final phrase embossed upon the pages of this aged tome, and they lived happily ever after, the princess sighs as though this tale has touched her very soul. Would that there was a handsome prince to marry me, he says somberly. Or better yet, a beautiful princess. At this point, I would even settle for a lowly scullery maid. You blush at this idle remark and mumble softly that this would not be proper. The storm outside is still squalling, and you have never been one to raise your voice. You do not expect, therefore, that the princess will overhear you, but she does. She observes you, her head resting against the pillows, and says, "And what would be the problem with that, As my maid, shouldn't my happiness come before any silly ideas of propriety?" Well, of course, you reply, but for a princess to marry a scullery maid? You're still hung up about that? The princess titters. Don't pay it too much heed. I'm just talking to myself. As if anything like that would ever happen when there is no priest around who would officiate it. You think that there are greater issues with the princess's plan than the lack of a priest, but she does present a good point. The castle is an empty one. Even if the princess were to find somebody that she loves, there would be nobody to make such a wedding official. This doesn't mean that you can't consummate it. Come on. You cannot help but feel like you have avoided a good deal of nuisance. But by the same token, do you not feel a touch disappointed? Well, never mind. That was a nice story, the princess says, but I'm not sleepy yet, and it's still storming outside. Won't you read me one more? You would not mind, you reply, but it is getting late. You really ought to return to your own chamber. I know, but can't you find it in your heart to read one story to me? Just one? You can choose a short one. I won't complain. You have some doubts about that, but as before, you cannot resist the princess's demands. It is not, you think, because she is a princess, though that is, of course, a part of it, but because she is, well, radiant. You would not, you think, as you turn to the next story recounted in this aged compendium, want to upset her. You would rather cut out your own tongue. You read another story to the princess, which is of a similar vein to the last, impossible adventures culminating at their close in a happy marriage. The tale delights the princess much as the tale you read prior, and she begs for another, then another. One bedroom story soon becomes 5, and even then, when the candles which flicker on the princess's bedside are close to guttering out, the princess is not satisfied. Like a grasping, greedy child, she has never heard of moderation. When she wants something, she seeks to glut herself with it, her only request that of more. If she were less comely, perhaps her inability to adhere to the word no would have been seen as a character defect. The princess is very comely, however, and so when she makes her next request, you almost agree offhand without considering the ramifications. I think I could go to sleep now, but the storm is still raging. I feel lonely on my own in this big empty bed, so I know. The princess's eyes light up like the night sky in a thunderstorm. Why don't you sleep with me? You stare at the princess, your eyes wide as goose eggs. Slowly, you blink. Then, just as slowly, you bid her to repeat herself. Didn't you hear me? The princess giggles. Maybe you've been so busy cleaning up after me, you've neglected to clean out your own ears. As I said, dear one, would you like to sleep with me? If that is the question she truly means to ask, then it is easy enough to answer. Of course you would like to sleep with her. It would be an honor. But would it really be all right for you to accept such an invitation? It must be a gross breach of protocol, surely, for a lowly domestic such as yourself to share a bed with a princess. You sit upon the princess's bedside, fretting, while she observes with wide, beseeching eyes. She is waiting. Well, what's the matter, dear one? Why do you tarry so? Could it be... The princess's lower lip begins to tremble. Oh, don't you want to lie with me after all? The sorrow present in the princess's voice and in her face makes you feel awfully guilty. Hurriedly, you console her. You tell her in no uncertain terms that if she truly wishes to partake in your company, then you have no qualms with it. Why would you? Well then, don't just stand there dilly-dallying, silly. Come and join me, come. And that is what you do, after returning briefly to your own chamber to change into your nightgown. Once dressed, you waste no time in returning to your impetuous princess's side. She is already lying in her glorious four-poster, awaiting your return as though you were a knight-errant gone away to slay some wicked dragon. The princess giggles when she sees you. In your haste to change, you have made a hash of the buttons, and she bids you to come closer. Let me fix that for you, silly. Oh no, you say, I couldn't possibly let you do that. I am but a servant after all. Should it not be your job to dress her? Maybe so, the princess says, but I don't mind a bit of role reversal. It makes things more fun. You try a few more refutations, but in vain. The princess summariously discards all of them. Quite at the princess's mercy, she might be even more stubborn than you are. You capitulate to her demands. You let the princess unbutton the front of your nightdress, then rebutton them, so that the fabric of your plain gown is drawn shut. Satisfied with her handiwork, she has very elegant hands. The princess draws back and pats the mattress beside her. Now come in. It must be horribly cold out there, but these sheets are warm. Coyly, the princess smiles. And so am I. You feel warm yourself as you slide into bed beside the princess. Your face is as red as the gown your princess so often wears, as red as the roses in the castle's grounds. All the while, your heart is fluttering. Does the princess know what an effect she is having on you? Surely she must. How could any woman be so blind? There, the princess exclaims once your body is lying beside hers. That is much better. Do you feel cozy now, dear one? You smile, and with a shaky voice you reassure her. Yes, you're cozy. You are quite cozy indeed. Very good. The storm might be raging outdoors, but it can't get us here. I know when I'm with you, I'll be safe. It's strange, but... The princess reaches out, then takes your hand in hers, winding your fingers together like a chain. When I'm with you, I feel so very light. It's as though nothing in the world can hurt me. You make me feel safe, so I want to make you feel safe too. I'll take very, very good care of you, I promise. Return her smile with one of your own, touched by her thoughtfulness, though something about her promise does make you wonder. Should it not be your job to look after her as a domestic? In a way, the princess replies after a pause, but you've been taking good care of me already. Now I need to return the favor. As a princess, I'm supposed to look after my vassals. It's all part of the job description. You were unaware that being a princess came with a job description? You thought the profession came with far fewer written responsibilities and far fewer forms to sign than, say, becoming a doctor or an astrophysicist or a mathematics professor. You tell the princess this sleepily, and she laughs. You do say some funny things, dear one. I think you must be tired. Rest your head. You've been working so hard, I think you deserve it. Yes, you think only half conscious. You think you deserve it too. You've been working for a long time, have been running for even longer. But now, at long last, you feel like you can let your fears go. Your eyelids begin to droop, your body beleaguered by a sudden, all-consuming fatigue. and in a quiet, understated sort of way, your consciousness is conveyed to Morpheus's kingdom. Your sleep is a deep one, despite the storm which rages outdoors. The wind is howling like a couple of wildcats, both locked in a vicious and bloodthirsty bout to the death, but you do not hear it. Swaddled by the warm blankets about you, and soothed by the princess's presence, you are immune from all the ills of the world. When you are with the princess, you feel safe, secure, and, yes, you even feel loved. It is a pity, then, that these feelings do not last for very long. You know that something is wrong, catastrophically so, the moment you open your eyes. Your thoughts are hopelessly jumbled, but you are certain that when you fell asleep, it was in a bed. A nice warm bed, no less, beneath soft, comfortable sheets. You are not lying in a bed right now, though. You are not, in fact, lying at all. Yippee! Yippee! Yay! Things are moving quickly. Princess is a freak. You are standing, instead, against a cold, hard wall made of stone. The curve of your back is pressed against the wall so intimately you can feel its icy chills seeping through the fabric of your nightgown. Your feet, which are bare, are similarly pressed against cold, unfeeling stone. They feel so frigid you cannot help but tremble. You're trembling so much you can feel your teeth chattering together. They sound like castanets. The sound is almost jaunty as it echoes through your cell, for that is, indeed, where you are. The princess's bedchamber, wherein you fell asleep, is a thing now of the past. Where standing, instead, you realize with a sharp start, in the cell of some great underground dungeon. You swallow, and when you do, you can taste something bitter on your tongue. Your stomach is beginning to churn with anxiety. You feel like you are going to be sick, a feeling which wells up inside you to a staggering degree when you catch notice of the stench. You are not, you realize, the only one in the dungeon. There are others here, others attired in the simple black and white outfits of servants which look much like the dress that you once wore. The others who are with you, however, in this expansive cell, manacled to the walls, are in no fit state to speak to you, nor to tell you of their plights. They are all unfeeling, unseeing, unbreathing. They are all dead. You cannot approach these servants to check their pulses, for you yourself are restrained, but even if you could, there would be no point. There is no way that any human could survive the wounds which have been inflicted upon these sad, slumped bodies. Over there, you see a woman slumped, the front of her once white apron stained with blackish blood. There is a gaping wound in her stomach, one through which her entrails have half escaped, and some sort of burgundy goop which might have once been pale pink. There is another woman slumped beside the first of a smaller stature. She is skinnier. Maybe she is not a woman at all, but an adolescent like yourself. She might even be younger. The girl's age, or lack of, did not preclude her attacker from inflicting upon her horrors, alas, for her body is even more mutilated than the first. Her body is peppered with even more wheals, and her face has been half smashed in. Only one eye remains, staring fixedly at the wall opposite her, in the ruined remains of what was once her skull. Over there, you see a woman who is missing both her arms and her lower jaw. Over there, you see another who is missing her entire lower half. Where have her legs gone? You have no idea. The injuries inflicted upon those bodies are ghastly, but their advanced decay is enough to turn your stomach. You do not know how long these carcasses have been laying down here, but they have begun to putrefy. You fear a similar fate might befall you should you choose to stay here. You need to escape. Fitfully, you struggle against the manacles which bind you, but alas, it is of no use. You cannot free yourself from the walls. Your restraints are much too strong, and you are much too weak. Panic rises up in your throat, cold and icy, while terror seizes your heart. This, too, glacial. It is obvious that escape is impossible, but still you squirm and writhe like a rat caught in a firestorm. There is little point, however, to your struggles. You succeed in nothing as you attempt to free yourself, save making the steel manacles dig into your abused wrists more sharply than ever. You gasp. That hurts. Well, you ought to have known that would not work. The very definition of insanity, performing a set action over and over again, hoping for a different response. In that sense, perhaps one could argue optimism is not so very different from insanity. Now, that is an interesting point to consider. Would you not agree? No, evidently not. You're still trying to escape, you foolish girl, as if that will do you any good. The clangorous rattling of your steely restraints is rather starting to get on my nerves. You're making enough noise to wake the dead down there, in your dark, dingy cell, and your screaming is hardly helping matters. I wish that you would cease this infernal racket, but I know that you will not. Nothing I say could ever get through to you. Not that you've ever listened to me in the first place. Perhaps you would listen to her, though. Is she not your kind, considerate mistress? Look now, she's come all this way into the dark depths of the castle's cold, inhospitable dungeon to see you. Is that not kind of her? Oh, dear one, the princess trills, entering the dungeon with a series of light, lilting steps. It would seem you have finally awoken. How are you? Based on all that infernal racket you've been making, it seems like you have no shortage of energy. Balefully, you turn your head so as to meet the eyes of the princess. She's standing but a few paces away beneath the roughly hewn stone arch which bids one entry, but rarely ever an exit, to the dungeons. The dungeons are dull and drab, but the princess is wearing her favorite red dress. It is so bright and brilliant that for a few moments it hurts you to look at her. Once the red of the princess's outfit made you think of romance. Now it makes you think of violence. Same coin. You must forgive me for leaving you down here for so long. That was unfair of me. I did think of waiting here with you by your side until you awoke, but... Once again, the princess giggles, a light, airy giggle which does not at all suit the situation in which you have found yourself. A dungeon is not a fit place, after all, for a princess. It is horribly cold here and so very drab, and there is nowhere nice and soft to lay my head. I could have brought my pillows down from my bed, I suppose, and my blankets, but then they would have gotten dirty, and that would be a disaster. I need to be more careful. I won't have anybody left to clean up after my messes soon, not when I've dispatched of you. Once again, the princess laughs. Her laughter is light and lilting like the chiming of a silvery bell, but it does little to alleviate your concern. If anything, it makes you feel even more alarmed. Did she say she meant to dispatch of you? Oh yes, that's right. Could you not tell? I thought you might have figured that out already after waking up in a dungeon, silly. Still smiling, the princess takes another step towards you. Would that you could, you would cringe away from her, but you cannot. You are completely powerless.